And good afternoon to everyone, and welcome all of our superintendents for today's webcast. Before I go through the updates and all the agenda for today, we do have a special guest. We have our first teacher, is what we'll say for today. We always have a great opportunity to work with the Lieutenant Governor. She's such a strong supporter of education. Of course, being an educator herself, we really appreciate having her in the role that she's in. And again, to see her passion and enthusiasm for our education profession is very refreshing every time I get the opportunity to work with her. And we've been able to work together on a few things here lately. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's got a great announcement that she wants to share with everyone. So, Lieutenant Governor, if you would please.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Fletcher. It's great to be with you guys again. I'm here to talk a little bit about a collaboration between Commissioner Fletcher, the Department of Education, myself and the governor, and Ag Commissioner Jonathan Schell. We have come together in an attempt to help bolster our farming community, the future of agriculture in Kentucky, to highlight this collaboration with Agriculture Week in Kentucky. It's going to be our very first Ag Education Week in Kentucky, and it's going to be March 17th through the 21st. Essentially, we've kind of actually come at this from a workforce standpoint, because when you look at what's going on in our farming communities now. The age of our farmers, the average age of a farmer is getting older and older, and the size of family farms and the number of family farms is shrinking. For so long, we have depended on organizations like FFA and 4-H to churn out our next generation of farmers. But here's the challenge with that. In most cases, the kids who join those organizations already belong to a farm family. So Ag Education Week is our attempt to broaden the base of agriculture in Kentucky and focus on elementary schools. As all of you know, the older the students get, the more specialized their education is. And so we do have the Ag pathway. We do have lots of Ag teachers, mainly in the high schools. That it's not only in the high schools, but that's where the vast majority of them are. Chances are, once a kid gets to high school, they already have some idea of the path they want to take, and they're going to start moving in that direction, either through career readiness or college readiness, maybe both. So by getting into our elementary schools to areas where there may not be teachers who have an agriculture background, but what we know is agriculture touches every subject area, whether it is STEM or policy. It can be the environment and science and technology, all of those things. Agriculture can truly be the tie that binds for those subject areas. So what better way to blend agriculture into education to highlight this week than in elementary schools, where teachers are already teaching so many different subjects, all the different subjects all day long, and infusing agriculture into it. And when we came to this idea, I'll have to give Commissioner Schell a lot of credit for this. He said, now what we don't want is to put this on schools and put this on teachers to come up with something on their own. They do that enough. They've got enough going on. We need to support them with some resources. So the Department of Education had some specialists come together and create two absolutely dynamite lessons. One is for K2 and one is for 3-5. And they follow the exact standards. They hit on all kinds of things along the way that our teachers can check off from all of the science standards, as well as the 5 E's that go through the planning process in science. And so it's so high quality. And it is an opportunity for, again, teachers to bring agriculture into an area that they're already teaching. I've got to give a lot of credit to the Department of Agriculture as well, because Bethany is a former ag teacher, so she gets it. And she has really worked closely to help develop the website that we're going to use to launch all of the resources for Ag Education Week in Kentucky. And both of the commissioners and I are going to be traveling around the state to visit schools and really highlight the work that's being done. By doing this, we are trying to mobilize a new generation of Kentuckians in one of our most necessary sectors, not just in Kentucky, but in the world, with agriculture, and doing it in a way that helps kids understand that farmers aren't, the guy in overalls and a straw hat at the corner store anymore. They're flying drones and they're operating machinery with iPads, and it's just a different way to look at it, and to open this opportunity up for kids with hands-on learning, with potentials for field trips to actually have real farm experiences is something that we're really excited about. So I will turn it over to Bethany Mattingly, who is with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, to talk to you a little bit more about how these resources can be how you can access these resources, as well as how to partner with organizations like Kentucky Farm Bureau, that is in every county in Kentucky, the commodity groups that operate around the state. There's so many options and community resources that you can pull from, and we're trying to make sure that we can house them all on this website that makes it easily accessible and helps our teachers to not have to reinvent the wheel, but to have readily available resources so they can participate in Ag Education Week on March 17th. So Bethany, take it away.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here today. And as Lieutenant Governor said, I'm a 12-year veteran ag teacher from JCPS. So I taught at Seneca High School, which I always called the heart of Louisville, Kentucky. And my students came without any kind of agriculture background for the most part. I had one student in those 12 years that came from a farm. And so we looked at agriculture education as a completely different lens than maybe some other places do. But that's kind of the experience I'm bringing to the table today. We have a lot of great things that are happening in Kentucky, and agriculture is one of them, and education is one of them. So I'm glad I get to work in both of those areas, without a doubt. Can I change to the next slide? Sorry. There we go. So what is it? I was trying to come up with like a one sentence blurb about what this is. So basically, it's a wraparound approach to agriculture education. It's highly engaging. It uses inquiry-based education. There's project-based learning opportunities, and then it also includes community opportunities to be involved, which all of those things, if you're trying to pull everything together into 1 week, that's a lot to pull into 1 week. And we're trying to make that as easy as possible on educators, whether you're a teacher, a principal, or anywhere in between. But I honestly think you could sum this up in 2 words, and I'm going to steal those from Commissioner Fletcher, which is vibrant learning. That's essentially what we're trying to do here. So that is the focus of our week, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible on everyone. So this basically comes together in 9 different initiatives. I'm going to briefly go over each of these. You can go to our website, though, and it will showcase each of these. All of the lesson plans are up there. There are resources for each of these different initiatives, and it will help you understand more about what this looks like for your schools throughout the entire Commonwealth. If you go onto our website, it will show you these 4 squares here. It's lesson plans, resources, why it matters, and get involved. And then you'll hear me reference those a few different times. One of the things that I know is really important to all teachers is, we have a plate and it's pretty full, as Lieutenant Governor said. And I know that's not just true for teachers, it's also true for principals and superintendents. So if you go onto the lesson plans and click that, it will open up a Google Drive. And on that Google Drive, you'll see a folder that says superintendents and principals. There's a PowerPoint on there, so you can directly take information about each of these initiatives and give it to your staff at a faculty meeting, or flow, as we used to call them at Seneca. So first thing that I want to go over is our literacy lesson, thanks to a partnership with the Kentucky Pork Producers and Farm Credit Mid-America, we're actually going to send a book to every single elementary school in the state of Kentucky, which is so exciting. There's a literacy lesson that partners with that. It is divided between kindergarten through second and then third through fifth. So that's going to be sent out around mid-February or so. Shout out to Franklin County FFA for helping us package those books later on in the month. Then there's the mystery farm mascots. So this is where students will get a clue every single day. And we know we're trying to trigger that natural curiosity about the world. So each grade level has its own mascot. They'll get a clue every day. And then Friday, they reveal who their mascot is. And there's different activities you can do along with that. But the idea is that you'll take your mascot with you all Friday long to all of your agriculture learning adventures. And then you can share that through the school's social media, or there's a QR code that you can use to share that with KDA, KDE, and the Lieutenant Governor's office. And then we'll promote the things that your students are learning as well. Along with that one, you also get a free bulletin board kit. So if you decide to take your mascot and do some fun activities with that, you get a free bulletin board kit that you can showcase that in the hallway or in your classroom. Clue In on Ag Careers opens up 30 different ag careers for our students from kindergarten all the way through to fifth grade. So there's a new career for every single day. You can divide this up or use it however you think is best for your classroom. But you'll get 4 different clues about this different career in agriculture, and they're not typical careers. So thinking about the things that maybe you don't think about with agriculture, and we're trying to broaden that scope and understanding of what it is. So you may not think IT is a part of agriculture, but we have a whole IT department at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. So we need people in IT who also understand agriculture as well. So understanding what the scope of agriculture is a huge part of what we're trying to do. Along those same lines, we have the Real Ag Experience. The Real Ag Experience is broken down into 2 parts. So you can do an ag tour to a local business. If you go to our website and you click resources, it will actually open up a map for you, and you can click the region that your district is in, and it will come up with a list of different places that you can go, farms and agribusinesses that are welcoming school tours, particularly during this week. In addition to that, sometimes it's easier to have somebody come into your classroom. So we also have part 2 of the Real Ag Experience, which is Bring Ag to the Classroom. And those are local volunteers who are willing to come in and talk about what they're doing in agriculture to each of those different classrooms. Stories About Ag is another partnership. So we're working with Kentucky Farm Bureau. You may have heard of what they've done before. They have an Ag Literacy Week. So we're working with them to bring farmers into the classroom to read books. We realize this is a statewide initiative, and that may be a whole lot of volunteers, and we may not get to every single classroom. So in addition to having those volunteers come in, we hope that you utilize those volunteers and open doors for them into your schools, but we may not get to every single classroom. So we're also putting together a virtual read aloud library. So you can go onto that library. Again, it's in that resource area, and you can read a book virtually with one of our volunteers as well. The science lesson, I think Lieutenant Governor Coleman gave a great rundown of what that is. So I'm going to let everybody kind of explore from there. But that science lesson is fantastic, and it really gets kids clued in on what it is we're trying to do, connecting those science standards to agriculture. And it was a natural fit, so that's fantastic. Ask an Aggie is a live panel. So on March 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to have a live panel. Your students can submit questions. There's a link for that in our resources through the lesson plans. And then you can also register for the live panel. We'll send out the link so that schools can join. This could be like an assembly style, or you could do classroom by classroom based on what works best for your school and your students. And then we'll go around to those different locations. So it'll basically be like, hey, we need to hear from Sarah in Shelby County. Sarah, you're in, Miss Smith's 2nd grade classroom. What's your question? And maybe her question is about, does chocolate milk really come from a brown cow? Or something along those lines. It could be anything about the agriculture industry, and our panel of experts will answer it live for those students. Harvest for Home is an opportunity where students can look at their local community and figure out what they could do to impact that community positively. And that's through harvesting skills, time, or resources. This also is really great opportunities to collaborate between different schools within a system. So maybe you have a really great ag program and they could build bookshelves, and we need more bookshelves, and the elementary school is going to have a book drive. There's countless different ways where you could collaborate along those different schools. Everything for this, though, is student led. So there's guides and there's checklists, there's communication plans that the students go through to make sure this project is a success. And then finally, we have letters for farmers. And that's basically where students are going to go through their week. They're going to reflect on everything that they learned. And then they're going to write a letter or a postcard of appreciation to their local farmers. They could give those out during the Real Ag experience on that field trip, or if a farmer or somebody from agriculture is coming into the school to teach a lesson. Or you can take them and drop them off at a county extension office or at a farm bureau office, and they'll make sure the farmers get those. And that's just a way to reflect on learning, but then also show appreciation for agriculturalists in the industry right now. So one of the questions that I had a lot as an ag teacher was, how can we collaborate with core content teachers? And so we have a lot of different options for that. And then what does it look like pulling these standards that are not agriculture standards into an agriculture world? So you can check out the research that has been done in agriculture education. Some of that is related to elementary level, some of it's higher level, but it's really interesting research. So if you're interested in kind of digging a little bit deeper to see what this is like, you can find that research on our website. And then we also have those standards that are aligned, especially with that science lesson. They are fantastic. All of the initiatives, though, are supporting Kentucky education standards. So it doesn't matter which of these initiatives that you feel like is best for your schools. All of them are supporting the standards and education across the board. And then finally, a lot of times we're asking ourselves, how can we get the community more involved and engaged in the learning process? This opens a lot of doors for that. And you heard me go through several different opportunities that we have to engage community partners. And that's one of the beautiful things about this work. And then maybe you're really engaged and you want to see, okay, what is it that I can do to make this successful locally? You can introduce this to your staff and encourage engagement with it. Like I said, if you go onto our website, you can click lesson plans, and there's a folder just for superintendents and principals that you can use to introduce this to your staff. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's more interesting than me just reading through the list of different things. So lucky for all of us. It's a little bit more fun than that, but you can go on there and you can really dive deep a little bit more with your staff and showcase that. You can also look for outreach from county farm bureaus. Like we said, we have a lot of volunteers who are looking to come in and read a book to kids, among other different activities. So if you haven't heard from them and you have connections, by all means, reach out to them as well. I had a meeting with them earlier today, and they are enthusiastic and ready to go. They've got lots of different ideas for what we can do to make this week really stand out for kids. You can, of course, utilize all the resources that we have on our website. You can check out that research that I mentioned. Encourage your teachers to give feedback at the end of Ag Education Week. We are going to have an option for feedback. We would love to get that feedback on each of those different initiatives so we know what we can do to improve in the future and continue to make lives easier through this process. You can go and experience Ag Education Week for yourself. So if you can jump on one of those field trips, I would encourage you to do that. Go with your students, go with your staff and see what that's like so that we can get a really great picture of what this looks like across the state. And then if you're planning something really, really cool, I'm putting together a whole list of different opportunities across the state. I can't guarantee we'll make it to every single one, but I really want to showcase the amazing work that's happening across the state. So if you want to clue me in on that, you're more than welcome to do that. And my email is available, I think, on one of these slides coming up. There we go. So that's my email and my cell phone number. You can always give me a call or a text, and then shoot me an email if you have any questions or if you have any kind of concerns at all. I know I went through this quite fast, but there are tons of resources on our website. And if you feel like we're lacking anything, shoot me a line and I'll make sure that we can fill in those gaps for you.
Thank you so much, Bethany. We really appreciate it. And I do want to take the opportunity to thank Commissioner Shell and also Lieutenant Governor Coleman. We were approached about this, and one of the first things that they wanted to do an ag initiative to bring awareness, especially in the elementary schools, but they wanted to do it in a way that we could provide resources to teachers. They didn't want this to be an add-on for teachers. They wanted this to be something that, you know, we could provide some help in developing different opportunities for kids, whether it be field trips, lesson plans, things of that nature. And we actually developed I believe it's a 5-day, I'll call it a semi-unit, a small unit, if you will, an exploration type activity that deals with in K through 2 with, of course, with pollinators. And I think our 3 through 5 is on erosion. But again, as we grow this, we'd like to look at other opportunities, because I'm learning a lot about how, you know, ag has so much more than what we would typically remember as being part of ag when I was in school. You know, we have everything from farmers to economists to scientists to you know, even those that fly, that are drones, that take care of our drones and things of that nature. And then the equipment is just unbelievable. What you see on the farm these days compared to what maybe we saw growing up is the technology is amazing. So again, I want to thank KDE, people in Office and Teaching and Learning, Mickey and others, and Thomas and our folks, our science specialists that worked on the units to help teachers. So this is a great opportunity, and if you need some help with that, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll try our best to connect with you, or could reach out to Bethany, as she left some information there for you to go with. So again, very excited about this. Will be our very first one, and hopefully this expands as we go throughout the next few years or years to come. As far as updates, we do have a few updates. We'll be going through some different items. We do have, I'll be giving some updates, Jennifer again. We also have some non-voting and teacher member applications for our Kentucky Board of Education. We'll be talking about Purple Star schools, education apprenticeships, and then, of course, we have March leadership meeting, and we'll close with some Office of Special Education and early learning updates. So next slide, please. Just to start, we did have the NAEP scores that were released, and there's some good news in that. We were one of just, I think it was 15 states that had a quote unquote statistically significant increase in our 4th grade math scores. Now, we also either remained the same or increased in all other areas. But again, overall, we had some great results, as you can see. Again, we got room to grow, a lot of room to grow. But again, the rest of the scores in the 4th grade reading and 8th grade math were really held steady. This is the first time since the pandemic that we either progressed or held steady on the NAEP since the pandemic. And also, too, the Commonwealth students were also above the national average in both 4th and 8th grade reading, as well as 4th grade math. So some good results there. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the individual state results. You know, they essentially group these about where you fall that are statistically grouped and what are similar. And it's amazing. There's some really good notes on there where we fall on a national scale. Now, we've got room to grow, absolutely. But again, some good scores to hold on NAEP at this point. Next slide, please. Just heard about the Ag Education Week announcement. And we want to thank, again, Lieutenant Governor and Coleman, and also Agriculture Commissioner of Ag, Jonathan Shell. He is so excited about this opportunity. And again, really was learning a lot from the education side. We're learning a lot from the ag side. So again, we really want to thank for this little collaboration as we hope it grows in years to come. Of course, this will be from March 17th to the 21st. We try to get that away from any testing windows or anything of that nature, just so that we have a good opportunity to put ag on display across Kentucky. Next slide, please. Also, we're very excited to announce the new Futurity website. Again, another collaboration. We collaborate on with the Lieutenant Governor and also the Council for Post-Secondary Education. Our collaboration is called the CEC, the Commonwealth Education Continuum, and we've launched Futurity. And again, this is a platform that is some of us may be familiar with platforms similar to this, that essentially you can do everything from interest inventories to to career paths, looking at educational options, what's the cost. But all this is all tied to Kentucky. For example, KY Stats, the Kia is also tied to this. All the information, even to the point where you can look at what type of classes are offered in local schools that relates to the career option that you may have. So again, we're really excited about this. This website is something that can be used as a tool. And we talked about this as we always look at transition readiness. I really think this is a tool that will help us to get to transition success. In other words, once kids identify their pathway, these are the classes that you can take. These are the things you can major in college, either in a 2-year if you want to look at a certificate, or if you want to look at our certification, or if you want to look at something as far as a 4-year degree. Then also, too, what are the career options after you get to that point? So this is a great website and a lot of work that's gone into this over the past few months. But again, if you have the opportunity, look into futurity.org and have your students go through that if you haven't already. Very excited to see how this grows. Next slide, please. Town halls have been phenomenal. I've truly enjoyed being out into the communities and talking to people about the accountability model. Again, we're getting a lot of input. Right now, we're going through Model Framework 2.0. We are gathering a lot of input, and there will be a Model Framework 3.0 where we make some changes. And if you've been to these town halls, we've kind of hinted at some of the input that we're getting from these town halls, and also from our co-op director meetings that we're having. So we're putting together all this information to put together an accountability system that is both meaningful and useful to all learners. We have 7 town halls under our belt, 2 more to go. We will be traveling to Northern Kentucky tomorrow from 5 to 7. And then we'll finish up with KEDC. And both of these were rescheduled from the early one. We should have known that when we scheduled these 2 that there'd be more snow, because that's what happened the first time with these 2, is the snow kind of pushed us back on and we had to reschedule. But looking forward to being in Northern Kentucky, and also with NKCES Cooperative, and also with KEDC. So if you have the opportunity to attend, we'd really love to see you there. So far, we have more than 400 people have been a part of these town halls. So thank you for your input. Thank you for being there. Thank you for your support. We sincerely appreciate it. They should be wrapping up this month. Next slide, please. We kind of hinted that we'll be heading to another part of Kentucky pretty soon to give out the KESSP award. They get into the National Recognizing Inspirational School Employees, the RISE Award. We had the opportunity to travel to Taylor County to meet a gentleman by the name of Sam Graham, who has been a bus driver for over 6 decades. Yes, I said that correctly. Over 6 decades as a school bus driver. And he wanted to speak about how great the students were, how great his family was. He really got emotional talking about his wife. But some of the best stories come from the people that talked about Sam, and how he treated kids, and how he was always there for kids. He always noticed, for example, a student that maybe or may not be getting on a bus, whether or not they've had breakfast, or whether they had food, or how he can help them. Again, this is something that when you work for 6 decades as a bus driver, you truly have to have a love of kids. And he's actually still, I think he subs a lot, and actually does a part of a day run. He does a half day, I think in the evenings he does a run, and subs often in the morning. So again, thank you so much to Sam Graham and all of our other school bus drivers across the state. We really appreciate what you do each and every day. And we do wish Sam the best of luck in the National RISE Awards. They'll be coming up soon. But we do have one more. We'll announce who that is today. But we'll be heading to another part of our state, I think, next Friday to hand out the next KESSP award. Next slide, please. That's all for me. We'll have some KD updates now. I'll turn it over to Jennifer Ginn.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I did just want to say, I know you all have heard a lot about All In for Ag Education Week. We also have a link to that on the KDE website. So if you go to the main homepage, you'll see a little button up there at the top that'll take you straight to that page, just to make it a little bit easier. All right, I will keep my statements brief as usual. The competitive grants from KDE, you saw these two last month. They are still open, so you can still apply for them. The FY25 Kentucky AED grant, the deadline for that is 4 p.m. Eastern Time on February 28th. $2,000 per AED award. It will assist districts with the purchase of new devices when none are presently available, replace AEDs that are more than 8 years old, and increase the inventory of devices. There is also the FY25 Kentucky Numeracy Counts Grant. The application deadline is 4 p.m. Eastern Time on March 6th. It's $70,000 per awarded district, no matching funds. It shall only be used to purchase approved high-quality research and evidence-based curriculum aligned to K-3 academic standards in mathematics, and expenditures for curriculum-based professional learning to implement new curriculum. We do have one new one this month. It's the FY25 Equipment Assistance Grant. The deadline's coming up real soon. It's on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Award amount of up to $25,000. The Division of School and Community Nutrition is making available this FY24 Equipment Assistance Grant. It's open to school food authorities, which includes several institutions there, public schools, districts, private schools, child care institutions that participate in the National School Lunch Program that have at least 50% or above free and reduced price meals. So the funds can be used to purchase new equipment, renovate existing equipment, or replacement of equipment. And if you have been awarded money before, you also may apply. So as usual, if you need any more information about grants, can be found on the KDE Competitive Grants webpage, or you can email Jennifer Bryant. We are seeking feedback on a few draft standards here. I just combined a few of them for you. It is the Kentucky Academic Standards for Reading and Writing and the Health Education and Physical Education Standards. We have a link here to the survey to provide feedback on the draft KAS for Reading and Writing. It is being collected by the American Institutes for Research through March 5th. And there is also a link to the survey to provide feedback on the draft KAS for Health Education and Physical Education. Feedback is being collected through February 21st. And as we always say on these, we suggest you do this on a full-size computer due to the amount of text that you will be providing feedback on. And I believe that takes us up to Dr. Jones. Are you there?
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, my name is Cliptis Ann Grider Jones. I serve as the Director of Education Policy here at the Kentucky Department of Education, and I'm here to share with you some information about applications for 2 non-voting leadership positions available on the Kentucky Board of Education. The Kentucky Board of Education is proud to offer a teacher leadership position to 1 Kentucky teacher, as well as a student leadership position to 1 high school junior. The KBE, or the Kentucky Board of Education, joins many states across the country that have student representatives on their state Board of Education. Next slide, please. The selected student and teacher member will serve a 1-year term on the board from July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. And membership for these positions rotate among the state's congressional districts in numerical order. The selected student member must be enrolled in a Kentucky public high school, be a junior at the time of appointment to the KBE, and must reside in Kentucky's 1st congressional district. The selected teacher member must be employed on a full-time basis by a Kentucky public school district in a position for which Education Professional Standards Board, or EPSB, certification is required, not be employed in an administrative role, and they must reside in Kentucky's 3rd congressional district. Next slide, please. I'll briefly highlight what students and teachers may gain from board membership. This includes incredible experience and insight into education policy here in Kentucky, familiarity with state laws, policies, and administrative regulations as they relate to education, knowledge about education issues as they relate to Kentucky and the nation, the ability to make a difference in Kentucky's educational policies, and our student members also gain a mentoring relationship with a state board member, and they have opportunities for career exploration. And you'll see pictured here, some of our student members and one of our teacher board members. Next slide, please. Applications are now available for both the teacher and the student non-voting member positions. They're due by 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, March 11, and links to both of those applications are included in the slide deck here. Additional details included, all of the required materials are included on those application links. My contact information is included. Please feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. And I'll close with just stating that we look forward to receiving applications from interested and eligible students and teachers. Thank you all, and happy to entertain any questions in the chat. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner, it looks like I've got an extra slide in here. Whoops, sorry about that. Now we are on to the Purple Star program. General, I believe you are kicking us off on this one.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm Brigadier General retired Steve Bullard. I work in the governor's office as the executive director of the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs, and I get to chair the Purple Star Schools Advisory Board. First off, I'm married to a school teacher, and I am very aware of the world you all inhabit, the intensity of it, and just all the great things that you do. She's retired from public school teaching, then moved on to a private school and retired from that. Now she's back at Centerfield Elementary School teaching part-time. I think when you get teaching in your blood, that's what you do. I don't know that you can ever stop doing it. So I applaud all of you for that. I also want to applaud Dr. Fletcher and his team for doing a refresh on the military transition into teaching in Kentucky document that, if it's not already out, will be coming out soon. And it basically gives you an overview of how you can certify a veteran of the armed forces, including the Guard and Reserve, to teach in Kentucky schools. And I think that's a wonderful resource for you to have. So I applaud you for doing that. We are very appreciative in the military community. Now, Purple Star Schools, we talk about building resiliency for Kentucky's military connected youth. And you tend to think that it's somebody whose mother or father served in the military actively, Guard Reserve active duty, Fort Knox, Fort Campbell. We have recruiters throughout Kentucky. This is actually much broader than that. And if you go to any school in Kentucky, far west, far east, north, south, and you ask, how many of you have a military connection? Someone serving, possibly deployed around the world. And almost everyone stands up. Kentucky's such a patriotic state. So we all have people we care about. It may be your father or mother, maybe your brother or sister. It may be an aunt and uncle. It may be a cousin that you know very, very well. And there are challenges associated with that. You know, my wife will tell you, I spent most of my career in the National Guard. However, I was deployed 3.5 years to the Middle East alone. A lot of time away from my children as they were coming up through school. And there's a lot of demands on those families. There's demands on the students. The Cabinet for Health and Family Services recognized this and adopted this growing program now in 46, I believe, states around the country. And we are growing rapidly throughout Kentucky. We have 2 all-Purple Star school counties. We shortly will have, hopefully, Hardin County as an all-Purple Star school county. Well over 100 schools. We're wanting to grow that. So I'd like to turn it over. I'm just doing the introduction. Steve Cameron and Georgie Ann Johnson are our folks who run this program, and they do a wonderful job. And Steve and Georgie, I'd like to turn it over to you to take the briefing on.
Okay, Georgie, can you do a quick mic check? You got sound?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Awesome. So first and foremost, I wanted to say good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webcast. My name is Georgie Ann Johnson, Georgie, and I am the program co-director of the Purple Star program. And I want to start by thanking Fort Knox and our very own Brenda for their incredible support. Brenda has been an instrument as an advisory board member, as well as helping engage our schools in the Fort Knox area. Next slide. So what is the Purple Star Award program? It is a statewide initiative designed to support military-connected youth in Kentucky. Our vision is very simple yet powerful. Every military-connected youth in Kentucky receives what they need to succeed. Our mission is to instill a sense of connection and strengthen resilience within these very same students. Military connected youth aren't just children of active duty parents. They can also be students with loved ones such as siblings, aunts, uncles, or grandparents who are serving or have served, including the Kentucky National Guard and the reserves. Next slide. So our background and growth of Purple Star. The Purple Star program was created in Ohio in 2016 and has since expanded to 42 states, like General Bullard said earlier. Kentucky implemented the program in 2021 through the SAMHSA grant in 24. Our state legislature passed HB 469, officially recognized the Purple Star program for its role in building resilience for Kentucky military connected youth. We continue to grow across the state. And I also wanted to highlight our number 2 goal, which is increase protective factors that help prevent substance misuse and prevent behavioral health challenges among our military connected youth. The reason for this is our military connected students, they are at a higher risk. And I believe our very own Steve Cameron will go into further detail about that. But that is just one of the major points that we like to highlight. Next slide. So currently, this is what we have, our statewide with all of our counties. We have 3 all-purple schools with our cohort being updated just this spring alone. So we're hoping to have it grow even more. And if we go to the next slide. So our Purple Star program, what it does is it helps our military connected youth overcome academic and socio-emotional challenges of the military life. And with our frequent moves and parental deployments, it also provides, the military connected youth with a point of contact who has been trained to deal. So with doing so, we have a designated liaison at each school, and there are in-person, boots on the ground individual who can help assist and serve our students as they come and what they are needing in real time versus having to wait or, just be put on the back burner or just someone they feel comfortable with. Next slide. And I
Okay.
believe this is Steve. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity for inviting us here. I'm Steve Cameron, along with Georgie. I am the co-Purple Star Project Director, and I work in the Division of Substance Use Disorder. I'm in the Prevention and Promotion branch. And as Georgie said earlier, there is a substance use disorder focus to our Purple Star program, and that is because the original needs assessment that we did pointed to the need, and you're seeing some of that data here on the screen. And this, what I'm showing you this in the next few slides, kind of explains why the Purple Star program and why we brought this particular program to Kentucky. So what you're seeing here is some data from our Kentucky Incentives for Prevention survey that is done in grades 6, 8, 10th, and 12th. It's administered by the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, and it has been used in schools for about over 20 years. And this is cumulative data, so this is going back to 2014. But what you're seeing here on this particular graph is you have those 3 bars, and as you can see down below, that first gray bar is those students who responded they had no military connection or they were not aware of a military connection. That second light purple bar are the students who reported having at least one. And when I say member, it doesn't necessarily have to be an immediate family member, as General Bullard said. It could be, your favorite uncle or cousin, someone close to you. And those kids, they're represented in the light purple. And then the darker purple is those kids who reported having 2 or more members. And I think the data there kind of speaks for itself, is that those risk factors multiply as you have more military connections. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I'll explain some of those in a minute. But basically, if you combine all those together, all of those substances, that the military kids with military connection come out being about 1.5% higher than their civilian peers. And this particular, and that's for all drugs combined. This particular grant, we had an opioid focus. And in that arena, just in the opioids alone, those military kids had a 1.3% higher 30-day use of opioids. Next slide, please. So not only are we seeking to mitigate those risk factors for substance use, but substance use and behavioral health problems are, co-occurring. So they exist side by side, and one can exacerbate the other. So again, this is data from our Kentucky Incentives for Prevention survey, and you're seeing combined data there. The same type of data sets, the kids with no military connection, kids with one, kids with two or more. And so in things like serious psychological distress, self-harm, suicide ideation, suicide plan, suicide attempt, those kids who report those military connections have higher incidence of that. And when we move to the next slide, you're going to see peer victimization, which is basically different facets of bullying, and this is sorted out by years. We describe peer victimization as being bullied on school grounds, being cyberbullied, being verbally or physically threatened at school, having items stolen from you, that kind of thing. And if you think about it, so some of these stressors that are in the background, obviously having your parents, one or sometimes both parents, deployed for a long period of time is a considerable factor that can threaten the stability of the family. But secondly, with the frequent change of stations, especially when you're talking about families who career military, the Department of Defense estimates that the average child, if your parents are professional in the military, you're going to change schools about 6 to 8 times through your K through 12. So those military kids, and this doesn't necessarily apply to the National Guard members because they don't move around as much, but those National Guard members are still deployed. But the point is, if you're changing schools that often, you're always the new kid, and unfortunately, those new kids, sometimes they get picked on. And we know that our military kids are resilient. It's a culture that stresses resiliency and strength, but it's a challenge sometimes to those kids when they're constantly in new environments. So how do we know it works? Let's take a look at the next slide. We're going to go over some data here, but first of all, this is when we showed that data that I just showed you, some of it. The data that we had was only valid for 2019. We convened the Kentucky Teen Council, and these were children of most of them National Guard, Kentucky National Guard members. Some were from bases Fort Knox and Fort Campbell. But we had a day-long retreat. We met with these Teen Council members. We talked to them about the data. We showed them data, and we asked them, what do you think is going on here? What do you think would cause one of your peers as military connected youth to say to use drugs or to have a behavioral health problem or to think about suicide and that kind of thing? And what they told us from the challenge part of it, some of what I said is the stress of having your parents deployed. Another big one was feeling isolated in the school, that they felt they were different from their peers and they wanted to connect with other military kids because they felt that they were in an environment and a culture that would understand them better. They did mention getting bullied sometimes, being picked on because they were, new in the school. But then when we asked them what were the strengths, what are the things that makes a difference, what would you like to see in your school? They said things like, well, if we know of someone who is a teacher or a counselor who is a veteran, we would tend to gravitate toward that person because they have a better understanding of us. They also appreciated any kind of military events that brought awareness to the school and to the community, and that recognized these youth, because they, in essence, they serve too, but we don't hear much of that side of the story. They also said things like, if there was a club in my school where I could connect with other military youth, that would be a big help. So when we analyzed that data and we were searching for a program, the Purple Star program that we brought to Kentucky in 2020 really responded to all of those things that these youth said that they needed and their peers needed. So that was kind of the eye opener for us, and that's why we brought the program to Kentucky. And so the next couple of slides, I'm just going to run through this real quickly. This is some evaluation data on where we are thus far. Now, this is from a national evaluation project that was done by the Military Child Education Commission. It was done in 2022. This is their last national evaluation. Basically on the left there, graph 7, this is asking, I think there were 20 Purple Star schools in that survey. How would you rate the impact of the Purple Star program on academic progress of military-connected children at your school? And this was school staff. And I'm happy to report that about just over 80% said there was either some to significant impact in those the 3 to 5 range on academic progress. So that obviously was a plus. And then over here on the right, the graph 8, how would you rate the impact of Purple Star program on socio-emotional development of military-connected children at your school, which responds to a lot of those needs that we saw about the behavioral health needs. There was even a slightly higher significant impact there at about 86% in that 3 to 5 range. So very encouraging results on a national level. And if we look here just locally in the next slide, we're going to see a couple of, this is the Purple Star Liaison report survey that we do. As Georgie mentioned, every school has a trained liaison, and that is up to the school to decide who that person is. It could be a school counselor, it could be school staff. In the majority of our schools, that military liaison turns out to be a family youth resource service coordinator. Sometimes they're veterans and sometimes not. But when you look at these bars on the pre-post test of our military training that is on our website, and that training is a requirement, it's one of the first steps in becoming a Purple Star school, you see tremendous knowledge gains across the spectrum of questions that we ask, and you see the questions there. I'm not going to describe them all. I would just point to those 2 last ones that I think are really, really important about ways to engage and support military-connected youth and knowledge of resources for military-connected students, because one of the things that those liaisons do is they're a sympathetic ear to the student and to the student's family. And if it's an issue that they can't resolve, they try to plug them in to resources outside of the school. Next slide, please. Looking at just another state level result, we asked our liaisons, how challenging has it been to maintain the Purple Star program at your school? And I'm happy to say that nobody said it was difficult. It was either 40% said very easy, 60% said easy. And part of the reason is that schools are doing a lot of the things that the Purple Star program requires anyway. And you'll see that a little bit later when Georgie resumes. And very quickly there on the right, this is what the liaisons on the ground level report that they are doing, how they are working with military families and military connected youth. And you see 50% aided an individual student. There was 25% that actually addressed the substance use or other behavioral health challenge with military connected youth. They provide education to military families. They organize school-based military friendly programs or parades, military displays, and they work also with the JROTC programs in the schools to kind of bring not only the school and the military youth together, but also to work in the community at large. Next slide, please. And I will turn it over to Georgianne. She's going to run through what the 4 requirements are.
Yes. So how to apply for the Purple Star Award. Schools interested in applying for the Purple Star can do so by submitting an application at our KentuckyPurpleStar.org website. The deadline is February 15th, but on the screen right now is identify that liaison, someone who's at the school at least 70% of the time, who the students feel comfortable with, who can identify those needs and point them in the right direction. Attend our required professional development training, which is for our military liaison, our Purple Star military liaison. Complete at least one additional military recognition activity, and I'll go into further detail on the next slide, and then create a resource page that is easily accessible to both students and parents alike. Next slide. Oh, yes. Next slide.
Which slide are you wanting? I'm seeing how to apply for a Purple Star Award.
Oh, the military youth art contest and additional programs. Yes, this is perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry about the mix up. So our annual Purple Star Military Youth Art Contest is open up through for K through 12, all students, regardless of their school Purple Star status. This year's theme is the military youth, strength, resiliency, and connection. And submissions are, the deadline for submissions is March 1st. And I also wanted to highlight the other resources and additional programs that schools generally do. So when we are talking about our military hosted events, such as the Memorial Day, 9/11, Month of the Military Child is coming up for April, and schools already have a event in place for those important dates. So a lot of the times, like Steve Cameron mentioned earlier, thank you so much. Our schools are already acting; they're already doing something. So why not just go the extra mile and apply for our Purple Star program? And with doing so, a whole host of events can happen, a whole host of recognition can happen. A month Purple Up for April 15th is coming up, Month of the Military Child. Again, our Veterans Day programs, our military balls, our JROTC, programs or engagement that often happen. So it's not an extra set of tasks that we're pushing on our schools. It's already something that they're doing. We just want them to be recognized for it. Next slide, please. And then I also wanted to touch on our dinner table project. So the other resources. Our dinner table project was created by our Four Rivers Behavioral Health Regional Prevention Center, or RPC, in 2015. And studies show that families who eat together often experience increased academic performance, self-esteem, and resilience. So that ties in to our military resiliency connection, and decreased risk of substance misuse, depression, and eating disorders. So those other comorbidity factors that often come in with moving around one too many times, or just being the new kid constantly at the schools. So with this, in 2020, we modified the project for military families by including military-specific conversation starters at Veterans Crisis Line number, and these materials are distributed, through Yellow Ribbon events or Month of the Military Child celebrations and National Guard youth. A lot of this is just trying to connect and make sure that our students are being heard and listened to. And because we know that our military community, they face more challenges, we did tailor them again to fit those heavy hitting questions that our youth often feel that they just can't voice. Next. All right, so our Purple Star Award ceremonies they recognize the schools that go above and beyond for military connected students. And some notable events include, our Kenwood Elementary School. They had the entire auditorium filled. You'll see where all of our military, ceremonies, they often have current or former veterans. They often have the entire school staff, the entire student body. They all get a banner, plaque, and our schools, we give them that autonomy to celebrate themselves the way they would like to, and it's always so much fun. I've attended a couple in the past, and we've had Miss America or former Miss America Heather French Henry show. We've had the Miss Americas show as well. And we've even had a veteran dinner that a school hosted, and that was just an elementary school, and they had all of their student body come, and anyone who was military connected, they had a very special dinner just for them, in just acknowledging all of the efforts that they continue to do for the community. And next slide, please. And then our call to action, submit your Purple Star application by February 15th. Why not be our next all purple district? We only have 3 currently, so why not be our 4th? In doing so, we just love and appreciated all of what you do for military connected youth. On the screen right now, we do have a quarterly newsletter, so you can subscribe to that just to stay up to date on any news and events. And next slide, I think that should, yes. Any questions, just feel free to reach out to myself or Steve Cameron or our very own General Bullard. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Mary Taylor talking about education apprenticeship. Are you there, Mary?
I am. Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to take a few minutes to make sure everyone's aware of some upcoming events we have in March. Next slide, please. For those of you that are aware of our track program, it's been around since 2013, Tech Ready Apprentices for Careers in Kentucky, going very strong today. We have branched out into many non-traditional occupations such as business, IT, and healthcare. So now education is on the radar. Next slide, please, Jen. So we are going to highlight and showcase some successful models. All 48 states are participating in some type of apprenticeship for education. Kentucky's really doing it well when we connect it to youth and to our teaching and learning pathway. So March 10th, 11th, and 13th, we have these events coming up in Springfield at the Elizabethtown Community Technical College campus, March 11th in Hopkinsville, March 13th at Big Sandy in Prestonsburg. Commissioner Fletcher is going to be able to join us at the one on the 13th. All times are local. Next slide, please, Jen. And we are going to hear, I'm just the dot connector, I'm just bringing everybody together so you can hear from practitioners that are doing this well. Also, not only K through 12 education, but also early childhood. We will have districts presenting. Also, ELA credit is available for this, 3.5 hours. Next slide, Jen. So you will hear from Nelson County Schools and Western Kentucky University, Bullitt County Schools and the University of Louisville, our early childhood education apprenticeships, how to connect those with the early childhood education programs, and then the teaching and learning pathway that we will be connecting to the K through 12 educator apprenticeships. So there's my contact information. When the slides are sent out, I believe that the links to those are live, or if not, you can always contact me, and they are going out in the Commissioners Weekly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mickey Ray Marinelli, March Leadership Meeting 2025. Are you there, Mickey?
I am. Thank you, Jennifer. Well, good afternoon, superintendents. I just am going to take just a few minutes to update you on this year's March leadership meetings. This is an event that the Office of Teaching and Learning has supported since 2019 with the rollout of our new academic standards. And so this year, if you'll take a look at the next slide, you'll see the focus for the meeting. And this has already been communicated in Dr. Fletcher's weekly message to you. It has gone out to your district curriculum and instruction leads, but I wanted to take a moment just to update you on the agenda for this particular year. And so we are going to spend some time focusing on the standards review process. So we are now at the point that, as mentioned earlier, that reading writing standards are under review again. In the coming year, we will be addressing social studies standards and then also our mathematics standards. So the team wants to be able to give you a timeline about all of that work. And we're so grateful. Many of you are allowing us to partner with your teachers, with your content area specialists to serve on the advisory panels and review committee for this work. And so we're just grateful for your support throughout that process. We also have some updated Kentucky academic standards for visual and performing arts resources that will be shared at this meeting. And then the other part of the meeting, the new teacher project, so TNTP, who authored the Opportunity Myth report back in 2021, they have a new report that focuses on trajectory changing practices for schools and districts. So we're going to share that report and take a look at some of the systems work that's in place for the schools and districts that are allowing for students to accelerate progress and make growth that is sustainable, even if as you look out to a decade for that particular student. So we think that's important to share with you. We're also going to spotlight some of our new resources around intellectual preparation, unit and lesson internalization that supports your HQIR implementation, the instructional practice guides that support walkthrough observations that you already provide, and then also taking a look at integrating deeper learning and HQIR to strengthen Tier 1 specifically. So a lot of exciting things there to discuss with you and members of your team. On the next slide, it's going to focus on the intended audience, and that's why I'm here today. You and your district team leaders are our primary audience for this event. So your chief academic officers, your curriculum instruction leads. There is a focus on MTSS, so your district MTSS coordinators may want to join on this event. And then we would always welcome school administrators who are doing the work of scaling and sustaining this across their buildings. It will be held in person in partnership with our regional cooperatives, and I'm so grateful for the executive directors opening up their buildings and giving us the space and time to be able to meet with you in person around these important topics. And you can see there that regardless of the session, it will be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. local time. Now, the next slide is especially important. We wanted to make this as easy as possible for you. So if you click on the dates there, it will take you directly to the registration information. And that'll just allow us to know who's going to be there so that we can best support you at each of those regional locations. And then on the last slide, I have my contact information to have my email address there, and then the email address of Crystal Rowland, who is our director of the Division of Program Standards. And it's Crystal and her team that are doing all of the intentional planning around this particular leadership event. So thank you all. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Mickey. Our next presenter is Associate Commissioner Greta Hilton from the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, and Melody Cooper, Policy Advisor. Do we have you two ladies with us?
We are here. Thank you, Jen.
Awesome.
And thank you for giving us just a few minutes to share some important information with you out of the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Next slide, please. We wanted to talk with you just briefly today about the State Advisory Panel for Exceptional Children, or what we refer to as the SAPEC. As most of you know, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires each state to have a state advisory panel for exceptional children. The purpose of the SAPEC is to assist the state with unmet needs and advise the Department of Education on special education and related services for students with disabilities. SAPEC members hold a very important role in our state, and they are appointed by the governor. They represent various agencies that include individuals with disabilities, parents of children with disabilities, service providers, and administrators. A majority of the panel must be individuals with disabilities or parents of children with disabilities. And currently we have several vacancies on our panel, and so that's why we're coming to you today to help us share the word and recruit people who might be interested in supporting us through this very important task. As you'll see there on your screen, the vacancies and the role groups that we currently have include parents of individuals with disabilities, people with disabilities, teachers, representatives of institutions of higher education, and administrators of programs for kids with disabilities. We are asking you to please share the link to the Governor's Board and Commission's website, and we've also included a QR code to make this a little easier. So if you know people who would be interested in serving, please share with them the application process on the Governor's website, and let us know if we can be of assistance. So that was brief, but that's all I really wanted to share about the SAPEC, and I'm going to turn it over to Melody Cooper to discuss the Adaptive Kindergarten Readiness Pilot Project.
Thanks, Greta. And I will add there that on that Governor's Boards and Commission's website, we did put that the way it's listed. Apparently, it can be hard to find when you're applying. So it's listed as under Children, Kentucky State Advisory Panel for Exceptional. So next slide. And I'll be brief as well. Good afternoon, everyone. You may remember that during the 2024 legislative session, Representative Kevin Jackson passed House Bill 695, which added an adaptive kindergarten readiness pilot project. And so the vendor has been selected, and KDE is partnering with Age of Learning. They're the creators of ABC Mouse. To offer this no-cost online educational experience for preschool-aged learners who may not be attending state-funded preschool programs. So this impacts you because, you know, you've got kids in your buildings who have siblings in childcare or who are at home, and this would be a perfect opportunity for these families. Children are being prioritized whose families are no more than 200% of that federal poverty level. And then there are other criteria as well, depending on that income level, whether families can also receive internet connections or devices and things like that. If districts and schools have questions, you can reach out to that Kay Vines there with Age of Learning. But then the website for Age of Learning is also there that could be shared directly with families so that they can sign up without having to, you know, go through any middle person at Age of Learning. And I believe when you received this, the slides in your invitation, there was also a flyer that was provided by Age of Learning, and that's something that could be distributed directly to families as well. And it has a QR code so they could find the application information. And I think that's all I have, Jen.
That is all you have. We are up next to any questions and answers. Do we have any in the system? Doesn't look like it. All righty, Commissioner, I believe we are up to you and the important dates.
You know, before we go into the important dates, there's probably three other updates I'd like to give folks. The first and foremost, we'll talk a little bit about NTI and the bills that are out there to help with the attendance. Again, I don't have a slide on this, but I just want to let each person know. So far, there is a House bill that has been dropped that has been put up to move it from 170 days to 1,062 hours. Essentially, what would allow is the districts to increase their daily hours. Their daily minutes to get to the 1,062 hours. And if they can get through that by June 4th, then that would be the goal. If they cannot get finished by June 4th, then they would allow for the commissioner to waive up to 5 days. They would call them calamity days. So I wanted to get that information out to you, and I don't have the House bill number in front of me, but you can find that pretty quickly, I think. But again, the only thing as it relates to relief to all the days that we've missed for one thing or the other so far has been through the House. and it's been about moving from 170 days to 1,062. Now, for those of you that may be a part of the boat dock bill, that may not help you quite as much. I have talked about NTI days with legislators, and to be honest, I've asked for 5 additional NTI days. I know the 1,062-hour bill will help a lot of you, but it may not. You need to look at that individually, how that bill will impact your district specifically. And if you have some issues, please contact your legislator about that. So far, the relief that we can see is a House bill that allows for districts to go from 170 days to 1,062 hours by adding time at the end of the day. So some of you may already have time built into your, I'm sure many of you do. And then if you can't get that time, that 1,062 by June 4th, then the commissioner can waive up to 5 calamity days. That's what we've seen so far. Again, a lot of talk about NTI. I'll give you one of the ideas that was shared with one of the, again, this is in circles, and then again, this bill hasn't been added, but was to possibly add 5 NTI days. And if a district didn't use those 5 NTI days, then they could actually add that to the number of days in which they could drop from their lowest attendance. So in other words, right now you can drop your 5 lowest attendance days in your seat calculation, and that would allow you to move up to 10. Now, honestly, the commissioner would probably have to dust off his old scientific calculator, go provide oxygen to Che and Matt. But if it was to help districts, we're all in. But again, that is something that's been discussed, but has not been added. So as of right now, I haven't seen a bill, unless it's been dropped today, that would add NTI days. So if you're in favor of NTI days, you need to call your legislator. I've talked to people in both Senate and the House, and I've given the idea, let them know that when we talk about NTI, personally, as a former superintendent, I always talked about continuing learning. We would try our best, if we knew we were going to be out for 5 days, to have maybe an NTI day off on Tuesday and then maybe on Thursday. And then that was really to make sure we stayed in contact with our kids, but also too, we led off with whatever we finished on Friday, we would try to pick up with on Tuesday and Thursday for NTI. So again, if you're a proponent of NTI, I strongly suggest you call your legislator to talk to them about it and let them know why. The same thing is seek shortfall. I've had several conversations on seek shortfall with the Office of State Budget Director. And for those of you that may not know, the process for coming up with the seek budget is there's a consensus building process between the Office of the State Budget Director, which is in the governor's office, and also with KDE. And for example, some of the things that what the numbers that are being based on now were actually forecast in the fall of 2023. So all the budgets with the governor, the House, and the budgets that are submitted come from those numbers. And one of the areas that was under was the AADA and growth across the entire state. If any district had particularly large growth that we did not compensate for, I say I'm talking about between the 2 offices, then that would be added to the shortfall amount. Other areas include the increase in special education, particularly in the severe population. Also additions in the students with low income, transportation, and other areas were underestimated. The area that was overestimated dealt with our property value. We went through a few years there where property values skyrocketed. And then so the projection was for another very large increase in property value, but it was not to that point. And even though we only missed it, I think by 0.2%, when I say we, I'm talking about the economists, missed that by about 0.2%, that means there's going to be less local effort. There's less local effort, there has to be more state effort to compensate. So after it's all said and done, and we're down to, there's 2 parts. There's the part that's statutorily required, which is we have a pretty solid final number. As a matter of fact, we had to make an adjustment last night, because Kia missed 1 student in the state, which caused about a $2,000 change. I'm hoping that wasn't my student in Lawrence County. I don't think it was anyway, but there was Kia actually made a error in 1 student. So we had to change that SEEK shortfall amount. And I believe we have a pretty solid number at 14.7 million, which means that we do have how that would impact each district here. So later on this, maybe by tomorrow, we'll get those numbers out to you. I've had some promising conversations with legislators and the governor, and we'll see how it goes. I don't have anything official to announce at this point. We're hopeful to get some of that covered. Now, I will say there's two parts: the statutorily required, and that's about 14.7 million. And then there's the part that is if funds are available, and that's for those rapid growth districts and also the clawback and other information like that. That brings the total up to 40 million. But that 27 million additional is if funds are available. So keep that in mind. When I talk about SEEK shortfall, I lump all that together, the 40.3, 40.5 in that area, to include even that 20-some million, almost 30 million, that is not statutorily required, but it's only if funds are available. And that's how the budget language works. So technically, there's about 14.7 million that is statutorily required through AADA and through SEEK. And also through Keys money and other areas. So that's how we're presenting that to our legislators. As a matter of fact, we also went in front of AARS today, in front of the budget subcommittee, to talk about SEEK shortfall today. So again, we're talking to legislators. We're getting information out to the A&R chairs, Petrie and McDaniel, also to the Office of State Budget Director, in hopes of seeing something change in the near future. So as soon as I know, and as soon as we have the final word on what's going to happen, you will get the final word. But again, I have to be given final word what's going to happen moving forward. The last thing is there's been a lot of talk about federal funds and what happens if the U.S. Department of Education closes down. Let me be very clear. First and foremost, we've gotten every Monday, we have pull downs from the federal government for the funds that we receive. We have not lost any federal funding at this point. Now, what our hopes is if they do close down the U.S. Department of Education, which my understanding would require 60 votes in the Senate because it is a legislative body, the funding, we hope, would go to another department, another agency, and just funnel directly to us. To kind of give you an idea of how much money, we have about a $2.8 billion education budget, and then on our federal money is $609 million. That doesn't include some specialized grants, but that does include everything from Title I Part A, which is $276 million, Title I Part C, which is migrant education, Title I Part D, Title II Part A, Title IV, Title I, Title V, Title IV, Title IV Part A also, Title V-B, Title III Part A, homeless children and youth education, IDEA grants to states and IDA preschool, and also career technical education state grants. All that totals at $609 million, $609,402,054. So, what we're hoping is if there's something that happens, that all that goes to another agency and comes to us. But at this point, we haven't lost any federal funds. I want to make that very clear to everyone that's on the call. So the three main things I can think about that you may be interested in, I've talked to you a little bit about SEEK shortfall. I've talked to you a little bit about House bill that relates to maybe some relief as it relates to number of hours. And then also, too, I've talked to you about federal funds. Those are probably the big three of the probably 80-some bills that we're tracking and the information that we're doing right now. But those are the big three items. And, of course, you can always shoot me a text. I'll do my best to answer you back, try to help you out. But that's the information we have on those three areas at this time. With that being said, I'll close with the important dates. So, Jen, if you could pull that slide back up, please. Our EPSB, the EPS Education Professional Standards Board, meets on February 18th. The Commissioner Student Advisory Council, which is February 25th. Our Superintendents Advisory Council is February 26th. Principal Advisory Council, March 4th. Educators Rising Kentucky State Conference in Louisville is on March 5th. Teacher Advisory Council is March 11th. And our next Superintendent Webcast is March 11th. So again, it's hard to having to sit in your seats just this time last year. When you have that uncertainty, there's a lot of sleepless nights. And I promise you, as we're given information that we can release, we'll get it to you as quickly as possible. So look for, if there's no funding for the SEEK shortfall, we'll send you those amounts to each district hopefully later on today, if not today, early tomorrow. That being said, I do appreciate all you do. Most importantly, I appreciate you for being all in. Have a great day, stay warm, and hopefully dodge some flooding towards the end of the week. Have a good one.